Good morning, y'all. We are back with another edition of DNVR Rams Live. As always, I am your host, Justin Michael. I got a fun show planned for you. I caught up with CSU Athletic Director John Weber yesterday. Really appreciate him giving me some time. He's been making the rounds this week. I know he caught up with Kevin. He was on the Brady Hole show. I think he had a 7 news segment this morning. So he's making the rounds, and rightfully so. You know, the school is really going out and trying to make the game day experience a lot more engaging. We talked about all of that. We talked about some of the things he's prioritized since taking over as AD about 7 months into the gig now. It was a great conversation. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. We'll get to that here in just a couple of minutes. I've always been a big sucker for Ag Day and the Orange Out in general. I remember when they introduced the uniforms back in 2010. Ag Day goes back, 40 plus years, but I remember just like implementing the Orange Out, how much fun it was. Actually, on the basketball side against Wyoming, and then the following September they wore the orange jerseys. They wore them with green helmets the first 2 years, which a lot of people probably don't remember. The uniforms have made great strides. We can definitely say that. At the end, I'll get into some of my favorite Ag Day memories. A lot of them are from when I was in school, obviously, but kind of fun to just go down memory lane a little bit, and just kind of reminisce on all the fun times. Real quick, I tweeted this last night, or posted on X, whatever you want to call it. I recently did episode number 1200 of the DNVR Rams podcast, which is pretty wild. This will be my 5th year of doing it this fall. Pretty crazy. I appreciate all of you. The show has grown a ton in the last year, especially, but the last couple of years. And it's just been a wild ride. So shout out to all of you. That's crazy. Since I took over, there's never been an episode that I did not host, which, sometimes I think about just how many minutes I've spent rambling on this show. And I'm not sure why you guys choose to listen to me sometimes, but I certainly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So shout out to all you. Before we get to that interview with John Weber, I did want to give out a couple of keys for CSU against UNC. If you missed it, I had Mike Sanford on yesterday. He is going to be doing color commentary for the game. Gave a lot of great insight. He's been able to make it to practices for both teams. Mike's a guy that knows this stuff. I mean, he's coached all over the league. He was Jordan Love's quarterback coach at Utah State, was at Boise State for a long time when they were dominant. Had some success at Western Kentucky. He was the interim head coach at CU, actually, post Carl Durrell. So he's been around. He's got a lot of ties to the region, to the Mountain West as a whole. But he does a really good job of, just by being a Boise alum, despite having worked at CU, kind of being able to put those aside and just talk about ball. And I mean, going back to the summer, he's talked about why he thinks CSU can be a much improved team. And a lot of that has to do with the athleticism that they have out wide. And I think, like all the fans, I really would like to see that, come to fruition this weekend and really see the Rams kind of take advantage of the athleticism and the talent they have out wide, which brings me to my first key. And that is unleash the beast on offense. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at this matchup. I do think they will be holding some stuff back for the CU game. Like, I'm sure they have a couple of plays like in mind that they're kind of keeping in their back pocket there. That said, especially coming off of a 0-point performance when she really didn't do much of anything through the air. I know the game plan was a little bit different. I've said my piece on that. I know a lot of you have as well. Whatever, at this point, you just got to get it going. And I think this is a nice opportunity here against probably a lot of man coverage. At least that's what we've seen from UNC so far, to take advantage of the speed that you have with Tory Horton, with Armani Winfield, Caleb Goody, all these great athletes. You have a receiver. You've got a quarterback with a ton of arm talent. If they're going to be pressing at the line of scrimmage, if they're going to be playing man coverage and they're daring you to throw, the Rams really need to take advantage of that. And I think this is just a great opportunity to get some positive momentum rolling, to kind of start establishing the identity that you hope to be moving forward. Obviously, the offense is not going to look like it did against Texas in most games. I do think they want to be able to run the ball when they need to, and they want to have that physical component. So I don't think they're just going to completely go away with it. And based on what we've seen out of Justin Marshall and based on the talent that they have in the backfield, I don't think they should go away from it totally. But obviously, they need to open up that passing offense in a major way. This is a great start. We saw CSU throw the ball all over the place against Utah Tech last year. Defensively, they gave up some big plays, and I think if they give up the amount of explosive plays in this game that they gave up against Utah Tech, that would be alarming. I'm not trying to put UNC down. It's just a program in rebuild mode under Ed Lamb. I think they play hard. I think they have an identity. And I think he's a guy, if anybody is going to be able to have success there, I do think he is probably the guy. I think there's also a clear gap in talent and athleticism in this one, kind of similarly, to the gap that we saw against Texas last week. There's obviously levels to college football. And I think you really need to kind of dominate on both sides of the ball, but especially offensively. Even if you give up a couple plays, so long as, you put, 45 plus, 50 plus points on the board, you should be fine. I have a hard time seeing UNC score that many against CSU, though maybe I shouldn't tempt fate. Because obviously there have been some stinkers against FCS teams over the years. Second key, you got to stop the run. They have got a solid two-headed monster in the backfield between David Afari, Washington State transfer, and Van Shield, who obviously was CSU's running back last year. It was kind of fun to talk to Cam Baratow about that earlier in the week. He made a comment about how they met in the hole quite a few times in practice, and he's looking forward to getting that opportunity in a live game. I think both sides, if you're CSU, you don't want Van to run wild on you. If you're Van, you obviously want to come in and make a statement and make that team, feel sorry for forever, letting you go. So you got to stop the run. UNC's got a couple of quarterbacks that can hurt you in the run game as well. A couple of big athletic guys. So I think that's the biggest priority. If you can force them to be one-dimensional and then, get after the quarterback a little bit, I think it's going to be a nice little game for the CSU defense, nice bounce back opportunity. That said, though, again, you don't want to overlook this team. They do play hard. You got to win the turnover margin, man. It wasn't atrocious last week. You obviously finished -1. And, with the interception, I've kind of heard it was a scripted go ball. So essentially, like, you're going to throw it either way. I don't know if that's true, but that is kind of what I've heard. Tory did have a step. Braden threw it a little bit late and off his back foot. Allowed the other DB to kind of recover there. If you hit it, everybody's feeling stoked. Obviously, they've got to cut down the interceptions. You can't have the error on special teams that you had. That was brutal. But UNC turned the ball over 4 times last week, and that was basically the difference in the game. You should have some opportunities here to create some turnovers. And obviously, when you do, you got to take advantage of them. A big game for the Rams, big opportunity. And obviously, it's really exciting because they're going to be honoring John Mosley. They're going to introduce the battering ram, which is exciting. They're going to have 2 separate flyovers. I mean, it's going to be a really special day. I talked about all of that with John Weber, and we're going to get to that interview here in just a second. As Foco Ram says in the Toyota chat, need a convincing win. Anything less will be tough going into RMS week. It's a situation where you kind of need some style points. I think looking at the game coming into the year, it was easy to be like, sandwiched into the CU game or in between the Texas and the CU game. Easy, like, overlook opportunity, especially against a smaller team out of the big sky there. That said, you got embarrassed last week. You got your tails kicked on national TV. And because of that, I think you've got an eager team that wants to come out and kind of prove themselves. And reading between the lines, what we heard from the players, from the coaches throughout the week, especially on the offensive side, like, I feel like this is a group that is pretty eager to release some demons, essentially. So I'm interested to kind of see what they're able to do. One thing I'm also really interested to see is, how does Tory Horton perform? It would feel pretty fitting, with 14 being retired for Lieutenant Colonel John Mosley, if Horton had the type of game that he had last year. 227 receiving yards, I believe, last year, 3 tutties. I mean, absolutely went off. I was curious. I went through the history. He reminds me so much of Rashard Higgins. They're both kind of like skinnier guys. They always have big smiles, highly athletic. If I really had to put it, I would say he's kind of a cross between Higgins and Gallup, which is a pretty good place to be. But Hollywood would always go off on Ag Day. In 3 orange out games, he had 19 catches for 418 yards, 7 touchdowns. Obviously, 4 of them came against Tulsa back in 2014. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But Horton so far in 2 orange out games, 13 catches for 354 and 4 tutties. I mean, if he had another 3-touchdown performance, he would tie Rashard for the most touchdowns in an orange out uniform. Obviously, that stat is somewhat skewed, as they've only worn the uniform since 2010. But kind of an interesting opportunity, and obviously an interesting opportunity for Tory to honor the legacy of John Mosley. He talked about what it means to him to wear that 14. He didn't pick the number 4 Mosley, obviously, or have any previous knowledge of it when he came over from Nevada, but it is something that he takes pride in. He talked about wanting to get the win on Ag Day for John Mosley, and here was Tory Horton after practice earlier this week. Maybe live TV.
You approach this game week, how have you liked the approach of your team heading into this game?
No, I mean, this is an important, homestand. We're coming in, we're coming home, and we want to, we didn't play the way we wanted to play last week. We want to get in a groove, and really just everything we've been talking about all season we want to see from this team. So our approach is to get after it and have high-intensity workouts and get in a good rhythm of playing good.
So the response you wanted to see is the response you've seen?
Yeah, so far, yeah, so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially like offensive side, do you feel guys, kind of chomping at the bit a little bit to, get a zero out?
I mean, we played a little differently than we normally did last week. We tried to kind of slow the game down a little bit, and we weren't able to accomplish our game plan. So, guys are anxious to get going, and we want to spread the ball around, get it in a lot of people's hands, and play with a little bit more tempo this week.
Do you feel like the skill guys, like in particular the receivers, understood that this wasn't what it was going to be?
Yeah,
I don't know
that. To be honest, if we have a mature enough team to understand that this kind of game plan, to be honest with you, no. So, this was a pretty complicated game plan we had last week. A lot of things had to go our way for it to be good, and it just didn't. And so, but we'll get them back at it, and we'll get back in the rhythm.
How much does it help? We've talked a little bit about money, but just being home, getting the rhythms of that, and everything that can come with kind of comforts.
No, it's good to be home. It's good to be home and get some rhythm going with what we're doing, playing for the home crowd. And just not have to travel, and it'll be good. It'll be good to get 3 weeks of it too. And so, this is the big start of that. And obviously we want to get a lot of guys involved. We want to see a lot of guys play well and at a high level.
Unique opportunity this year, just given that you play all the local Front Range schools.
Yeah.
Is that a big point of emphasis of kind of dominating that portion?
Yeah, it's a big part of what we get to do here is play all these Front Range schools. And Hank reminded the guys of that today, and so this is the first one. So it's important we start on the right foot.
When you think about one of the things you wanted to establish here when you first got here was Canvas becoming a place where you won, where there's a home field advantage, because that hadn't been that way. Is this an important first step, because you did have a winning record at Canvas last year, to get that reestablished again, to continue?
Yeah, I mean, we made some strides last year. It's always our goal to play well at home, and we made some strides last year, and this is the start of making those strides again this year. And so it's our first opportunity. It's Ag Day. It's always a fun day to play here, and we'll get in our orange jerseys and be ready to roll. So
Noticed on the 2 deep that Newer's still listed out, still going to be out this week.
Yeah, he's not going to participate this week, and he's got a pretty serious foot injury. We're hoping we're going to get him back, but he will not be back this week.
Good. Thank you.
All right, that obviously was not the clip of Tory Horton. We had a mix-up on the back end there. I misplaced the files, so we'll get to that Tory Horton clip here in just a second, and then we will play that interview with CSU Athletic Director John Weber. That obviously was Jay Norvell talking post-practice, also setting the scene for Ag Day. But my bad there on the mix-up. Real quick, trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota has built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there's a Toyota truck that's just right for you, like the all-new 2024 Tacoma or the return of the iconic 2024 Land Cruiser. Toyota offers 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive like the Epic 4Runner. Toyota also offers more low and zero emission vehicles combined than any other automaker to give customers numerous choices to reduce their carbon footprint. 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from. The Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck is sick. Not to be outdone, Toyota SUVs take command on the road and on the trail, so you can explore the road less traveled without sacrificing smooth city rides in SUVs like the RAV4 and Grand Highlander. Toyota is a proud partner of CSU Athletics and the official vehicle of DNVR. I also want to talk to you guys about a great health initiative from our friends over at UC Health. They have a statewide challenge that's going to help everyone live just a little bit healthier. The pillar of this year's challenge is nutrition. UC Health is here to set the tone and get you thinking about choices with their Ready, Set, Go initiative. Little play on Ready, Set, Go there. Here's the thing, guys. One of the biggest things about being healthy is being mindful. And it's not an all or nothing approach. You know, little steps every day, going for a walk, having just a healthier side option. You know, maybe you have your burger, but you have a salad with it instead of fries. Taking a time to decompress, you know, doing some deep breaths, doing some yoga maybe. Whatever you got to do, those little things every day, they add up and they make you healthier. And that's what it's all about. Just little steps each and every day to find that balance and to make your life just a little bit better. If you want to join UC Health's Ready, Set, Go challenge, click the link in the show notes or go to www.uchealth.org/readysetgo. All right, I think we have the Tory Horton clip here. We're going to play that for you. This is him talking about the opportunity to honor John Mosley, wanting to perform well, what it kind of means to him to represent that number 14.
One's wearing it. What have you learned about John? What does it mean to be wearing his number?
You know, it means a lot. You know, him doing so much for the community, and you know, just even the state of Colorado. You know, just finding out he was a multi-sport athlete. He did football and wrestling. Was voted class president twice. You know, that takes a lot, especially in the time and era that he was in with them being segregated. That's a lot of heart, and you also, you know, see that he went into the war and, you know, he even became a fighter pilot, and that just, you know, that's something cool to learn, and just the amount of stuff that he did for the you know, just for the school and just for, you know, our country and whatnot. So, you know, it's really a blessing and honor to, you know, wear his number. You know, I can say that, wear his number, and, you know, just go out with a bang for the last year the numbers being out.
He's not the reason you picked that number, obviously, but when you learn that, do you take more pride in getting to represent that number, just given everything he accomplished?
Oh yeah, you know, once I found out the number was being retired, you know, they were saying I was able to keep it, and, you know, just kind of, you know, they felt like I was one of the perfect examples of, you know, having that number go out with a bang, and, you know, I took that as a, you know, true honor. So, you know, the stickers on the back, you know, it's not for me, and I know it's not for me. It's for him and everything that he's accomplished and done. And, you know, just wearing that number, I just want to go out there and give it all, you know, show the state of Colorado and even, you know, the school, how much that number 14 means to everybody here, especially on Aggie Day.
You had 3 touchdowns on Ag Day last year. Have you thought about, like, what having a big performance would be like, especially on this day for John Mosley?
Yeah, you know, it mean a lot. You know, I kind of want to dedicate this game to him. You know, of course, when he was at school, it was the Aggies. It wasn't, you know, for calling the Rams. It was, you know, they were wearing their orange and the, you know, the green. So, you know, us wearing our orange jerseys on that day, and, you know, the number being retired on that day, I feel like I gotta go out with a bang. I gotta give it all I got, and of course I give it all I got every game. But, you know, this game is very special, and you know, we gotta come out with the win for him.
Gotta come out with the win for him. You love the statement from Tory Horton. I appreciate him taking a second to reflect on that legacy. That's always a tough spot too, getting put, you know, on the spot to talk about the legacy of such an important man. And Tory did a really great job. He's just a really humble and just gracious individual. I really appreciate him, man. I mean, like, honestly, a lot of star receivers, after how that Texas game would have went, they probably wouldn't have even given us the time of day. Would have just done no media this past week. They never act like that. They never big time us or anything like that. And it's much appreciated. Also much appreciated is the time that John Weber gave me. And we're going to play that interview with him, the Colorado State athletic director. I picked his brain a little bit on why it was such a big priority for him to honor John Mosley. We talked about some of the game day initiatives. I put him on the spot and asked him what his first CSU memory is. It was a lot of fun, and I appreciate him giving me some of his time. And here's that interview with CSU Athletics Director John Weber. I am thrilled because we have John Weber joining the show, CSU Athletic Director. It's a big week. It's a big month for CSU, honestly. I mean, obviously this 3-game homestand, we got state pride, we got the orange out, we got the first Rocky Mountain Showdown since 96. I'm sure you've got a million things on your mind at the moment, so I really appreciate you doing this. But just first things first, how are things going? How's this first full year on the job been for you so far?
First full year is so first of all, thanks for having me on here. I really appreciate it. Always great to connect with you and connect with all of our Ram fans out there. So what are we? We're about month 7 now at this point. It's been great. I'm absolutely honored to do this. It's special to be able to do this at your alma mater. Really make a difference for for your own school. It's absolutely been great, and super excited as we head into the fall here.
We have a lot to talk about. You guys have a ton of initiatives going on right now. I definitely want to talk about John Mosley, but just kind of as a warm-up question for you. When we talked in Vegas, we kind of asked you about what some of your favorite CSU football memories were. And, you brought up some of the, classic BYU games and, Border Wars, obviously. But I'm curious, if I put you on the spot and I say, what is your first CSU memory? What comes to mind?
Oh, boy. Honestly, it's going to be a tailgating out at Hughes. So it was here. Let's see, I was here 87 and 91, and absolutely remember headed out to Hughes for my very first game out there, and was instantly attracted to what was going on there, and had a great 4 years while I was here.
There was something about those Hughes nights, like being up against the reservoir, like it was such a party, and I mean. That's a fun time, obviously, with the program turning around under Earl Bruce and the Freedom Bowl. And that's the same time frame my dad was an alum, so he loves that period.
Yeah, and that was probably the most vivid memory was was that Freedom Bowl with that upper deck rocking back and forth. That was certainly a special moment while I was a student here. Program's
come a long way, obviously, since then. I mean, Canvas is just an incredible facility, and I saw Kevin Lytle post. I know you caught up with him earlier. That it sounds like the UNC game's approaching a sellout now of 34,000. It sounds like.
Yeah. I think we're pressing past 34,000 at this point. We've just got a handful of tickets left for what is going to be a very, very special and historic day here in Fort Collins at Canvas Stadium on Saturday. Really, really want to pack that place and make sure that we honor Lieutenant Colonel Mosley and honor our ag tradition as well on that day. It's a really great day.
Ag Day has long been one of my favorite annual traditions. I mean, on the hoop side and football, it's fun. I remember when the uniforms got introduced, and it's been cool to see how they've changed over the years. I'm obviously excited to see the new variations, which look just really sharp. But you mentioned John Mosley, and it's a really special day on top of all of the things that we have for Ag Day weekend, which is a great tradition. But I mean, John Mosley, one of the more remarkable men to, ever attend this university. Why was this a priority for you? Because I mean, this is one of the first, big things you're doing from a historical standpoint. Why was it so important to you to honor, this special man?
No, that's a great question. And when you look at Lieutenant Colonel Mosley's life, his legacy, it's really important to me. It's really important to this university that we honor him with, honestly, probably the best thing that we can possibly do, which is to retire his number 14 across all of our sports. He fought literal and societal battles that most of us, really don't understand. And Justin, you and I and so many other people out there are able to do what we do because of people like that. And he left a legacy. He probably had, well, I know he had countless times that he could have chosen to quit, and he never did. And when you look at kind of that relentless pursuit, that relentless attitude, it's something that this university embodies. It's something that we need to celebrate. It's something that we need to honor, and it's just phenomenal that we're able to do that.
I'm not trying to butter you up just because we got you on the show, but this is what I said when the news was announced, is that this is just a slam dunk move by the admin. Like, frankly, this was probably pretty long overdue. And like, I'm not taking any shots at anybody that used to be there or anything like that, but it's just, I mean, you look at what he did, obviously being a part of the Tuskegee Airmen and one of the first Black pilots to fly bomber planes and multiple wars. And I mean, to do what he did in this state, like he was only the second Black football player in program history, first Black letterman, only the second Black wrestler in the state of Colorado. Like, it's just incredible everything that he did in his life. And I mean, he did this a full decade almost before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball.
He did, and doing it at a place like Colorado State, makes this place even more special, right? At the time that he was competing in that conference, he was the only Black athlete in that conference on a football team, across all of the teams. So it was it was a challenge for him. It was a challenge, honestly, within his own team at times. But there was a good group of folks that supported him, fought for him, made sure that he was an integral part of that team, and that led him to continue to be integral to the university as a whole. And also he came to Colorado State, or Colorado A&M at the time, as a National Merit Scholar out of
I mean, he was decorated coming out of high school.
Yes, I mean, he's a great student, and then went on and was vice president of his junior and senior class. At a time that that was a struggle for him to achieve that. So, it was clear that campus supported him, and it's clear that campus supports him today. And what a legacy he's left, and we're thrilled to be able to celebrate him.
I know we've got a lot of initiatives to hit on, but I mean, I'm just really excited for this, and I'm curious, what was it like, getting, I'm sure you guys have had an opportunity now, to speak with the Mosley family. I know they're going to be there on Saturday. Like, what was their reaction that, this long overdue recognition of this just incredible human was finally happening?
Well, they're certainly grateful, and they're super excited to come up here and spend time at campus. They're actually coming up Friday, so a good group of the Mosley families coming by Friday. We're going to have a private reception for them. Many of you may have seen the Lieutenant Colonel Mosley logo that we created. We've created flags out of those.
Cool. Those pins are awesome, cool. By the way.
Yeah, they are cool, aren't they? We're going to have a really cool flag ceremony on Friday afternoon. We're going to raise and lower a couple of the flags over canvas and hand them to two of his four children. Two are surviving, Eric and Lorette. So they'll each get a flag. We'll have another fun private ceremony with them inside. He's going to have an opportunity to meet privately with Tory Horton, obviously wearing number 14 for us this year. And then he's going to have a chance to, Eric will have a chance to speak with the team, and then we're going to head over to volleyball and do a ceremonial first serve before that game as well. So it's going to be a fun afternoon on Friday, which will lead into an epic and historical day on Saturday at campus.
I love that you guys decided to retire 14, not just with football, but across the board, because I mean, his legacy, his impact is just, it's so much far reaching, and it's so much broader than just, what he did athletically.
Oh, there's no doubt. And he was a two-sport athlete himself. So he was a wrestler and he was a football player. So he was a multi-sport athlete here at Colorado A&M. When you look at things like the Mosley Leadership Program, that's been in place here, he impacts student athletes, from every single team. So it was an obvious move for us to do that. But it's also, it's the highest honor that we can do for someone. And, it takes unusual circumstance, unusual and unique humans to be, revered in this manner. And, again, Saturday is just going to be a special day.
Do you have a strict set of rules in terms of jersey retirement? Because obviously there are a lot of players that have great careers, and you can't retire everyone's numbers simply because you're going to run out of numbers eventually.
Correct.
But like, for instance, a guy like Trey McBride, who wins the Mackey Award, I think there's an argument from some that, maybe 85 should never be worn again. I'm just curious, like, what goes into that process?
Yeah, there's, there are certainly guidelines that go along with it, and we reviewed those this spring, and we've got those updated a bit as well to make sure that something like that is attainable. But when you look at the folks that we've recognized by numbers being hoisted into the rafters at Moby or on the side of Canvas Stadium, let's be honest, we probably have a little bit of work to do to do there, and over the coming years we'll continue to evaluate what makes sense to move forward with.
I love that. I think it's just important, to stay connected with the past, obviously, and you guys have made great strides, I think, from the athletic department with just even small things like moving the firing of Comatose to 48 minutes before kickoff dire from McGraw. These just little details that allow you to stay connected, to your roots, to your past, all the tradition and the things that we love about college football, the pageantry. But I'm curious, how tough of a balance is it, especially in a landscape that's like ever changing and you have to keep up with it? And we're seeing, traditions go out the window with conference realignment and rivalries lost and just all kinds of changes across the board. Has that been one of the tougher balances you've had as an AD of like, well, we want to stay true to our roots, but you got to keep up with the train or it'll leave you behind?
It will, but when you look at at college game day, a football game day in the fall, there's so much pageantry and pomp and circumstance that goes along with that, and we want to make sure that we're engaging our fans, engaging our students, engaging our alumni, engaging our players, that are competing on the behalf of the university. We want to do that in a way that is celebrated. And the other thing we don't want to lose track of is the fun part of this. I mean, college athletics is an absolute blast. And when we put on a competition, regardless of the sport that we're competing in, we want it to be fun for all those involved, those that are there in attendance to watch and cheer, and those that are competing on the behalf of CSU. And we've got a huge focus on that as we head into this competitive season.
You mentioned student engagement and engaging the fans. You guys have got some changes coming to game day this year. We mentioned Comatose and that, but you're also you have a battering ram, which I don't even know what that means, but I'm excited to see it. Like, how much can you tell us about that?
I'll tell you a few things, and actually, so you mentioned Comatose first. So that's been a longstanding tradition that the cannon fires to signify the team coming on the field and start of the game and a touchdown and score, that kind of stuff. We're going to extend its use a little bit, and 48 minutes prior to kickoff. So Thumb McGraw's number, 48 minutes prior to kickoff, we're going to fire Comatose, and that is going to kick off what's called the new March to Victory Parade. So we're going to bring band, spirit, ASCSU members. The president will often be in it. I'll be in it often. And that really signifies the time that it's let's put down the tailgate materials and let's get into the stadium to make sure that we pack that place as the team comes out on the field. So that's really signifying it's time to come inside, and really want to make sure that we are getting our fans inside and ready for the game before we get to kickoff. So what you'll see. And we got a slight variation for the Mosley game coming up, but in general, what you'll see is a lot more engagement happening before kickoff. And you mentioned the battering ram; that's going to be one of the most obvious ones. It's being put together in partnership with some folks across campus. So it's really fun to work with those folks on campus to bring this thing to reality. But we've got gates that are going across the northwest tunnel where the team comes out, pregame.
Yeah.
And the battering ram is really symbolic of the student section opening the gates and bringing the team out onto the field. So it's a really big, very obvious thing that you will not miss, I assure you, when you see it on Saturday. But that'll be used to open those gates, and that'll lead into a new intro and tunnel walk, and the team will come out on the field, to some really fun new music as well. I'll give you that little tease.
Ooh, I like it. I'm excited. I think it's a unique way to kind of make your entrance have or stand out a little bit more. Not that there was necessarily anything wrong with the previous entrance, but I mean, just like we see it across college football. Like Virginia Tech and Enter Sandman or Clemson. Like it's cool to have something that stands out.
And it's getting energy in the crowd. As we head into kickoff, we want that to be a rowdy space, and we're all about creating a really fun, safe but fun environment, and making sure that we're backing our team as much as we possibly can.
I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I know you got a lot going on this week, but one of the things I really wanted to ask you about was the decision to move the marching band to midfield. They're, in my opinion, going to be a much more integral part of the game day experience now. I just felt like the sound kind of went out the north end of the stadium there before, and you couldn't hear them quite as well as I remember, back in my day at Hughes, when I was a student. I felt like they were a little bit more part of the experience. And to me, this kind of brings some of that back. But what went behind that decision?
Exactly that. It's, wanted to put them back on the 50. That's where they've been historically when we're at Hughes. And it's one of those things where if we put the band right in the middle of the student section, I want the band and spirit and the students all working together. And when I talk to our band director and to our spirit squad coach, I talk to them about, their job is to make our teams one score better, on any given day. And that extends to the student section as well. So, the more that we all work in unison, on a given game day, that the better our team is going to be on that field, and there's no such thing better as a home field advantage.
What has the early response been to that change? I mean, obviously we haven't had a home game yet, so we'll see like how it actually
we'll find out Saturday, aren't we? Yeah,
yeah.
It's been really good. Everyone's excited. The band, honestly, is super excited about going back to the 50. And coaching staff, that was one of the very first things that I talked to Coach Norvell about, and he says, absolutely, let's do that. So I think there's pretty universal support for it.
Before we get out of here, I get asked about this a lot, and I know it's kind of a complicated legal thing, but people want to know about the trombone suicide and like why can't we bring it back? And it was admittedly one of my favorite traditions at CSU. Like I used to get so hyped for it growing up. Even when I was in college, I loved it. When I was in school is when it went away. I remember from the reporting, like there was some legal stuff. I think it's probably a liability issue, but like, can you say anything on that, or is that more something I need to talk about the band?
Yeah, it probably talk about the band a little bit more, but really what it is, it's a safety issue. And when the trombone suicide, when that goes wrong, when that goes awry, it's not a good thing. So it's a really cool tradition that we had. It's a fun memory to have, but that's not something that we'll bring back.
Figured that was the case, but hey, when you say it, maybe they listen to me a little, or they'll listen to it a little bit more than when it comes from me. And the last thing I'm going to ask you here, and it's probably pretty obvious, but you got 7 home games, you got a 3-game homestand, coming up. Just how crucial is it to capitalize on that? You got 34,000 plus coming in this weekend. It's going to be a sellout crowd, probably the biggest crowd in Canvas Stadium history, or will be. Well, probably will be for the showdown. Like how crucial is it to get this thing rolling?
Yeah, of course it is. We've got to take advantage of these types of moments. So we're excited to start things off right this Saturday, and we'll worry about the next game after that, and the next game after that, and the next game after that. But right now we're focused on doing everything we can to beat Northern Colorado, and get in that win column and to build that momentum.
John, this was awesome. We appreciate how accessible you are. You've been great to work with since you took over. And obviously we're all really excited for, a special day in Canvas Stadium, and hopefully get to see a big Rams, orange out dub.
Yep. I appreciate that. And specifically for this Saturday, let's get everyone inside that stadium, be in the stadium, I'd say in your seats no later than 25 minutes before kickoff. We've got some really good celebrations, on-field celebrations, revealing, on the side of the stadium. And we've got 2 separate flyovers coming through the stadium as well.
Cool.
So it's going to be a whole lot of fun that happens before the game today. So in all seriousness, let's get everybody inside that stadium and honor Lieutenant Colonel Mosley and have a great time doing it.
You heard the man. Don't be late. We're always proud to be here on the DNVR Rams podcast. John, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Justin. Go.
Big shout out to John Weber there. He gave me, about 20 minutes yesterday. Really appreciate him. Um, I know some folks were commenting live, had some questions for him. I will get the answers to some of those questions you have in the near future. Before we get out of here, I'm going to give some of my favorite Ag Day memories. Real quick, I want to talk to you guys about Coors Light, who encourages you to choose a chill mindset. Life can be chaotic and stressful. I think we all have those days where it just feels overwhelming. I mean, maybe it's work, maybe it's something in your relationship or friendships, maybe it's just one of those days. I almost made a break stuff reference there, but I don't know about copyrights and all of that fun stuff, so probably shouldn't go that way. But you also don't want to go the bad way when life starts to get frustrating. You want to choose a chill mindset. Do what you got to do. Take your deep breaths. Go out and do some yard work. And then when you do, reward yourself with an ice cold Coors Light, of course, after you put yourself in the right state of mind. When the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for that smooth finish. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. I also want to talk to you guys about Game Time. If you don't have tickets yet for Ag Day, hit up our friends at Game Time. Nobody makes it easier to get last-minute deals than our friends at Game Time. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes it easier than ever. What Game Time Picks does is it filters out the fluff. It gives you just the best of the best. They've got thousands of tickets. That can be a little bit overwhelming to sort through at times. With Game Time Picks, you're just going to find the best options that they've got. From a seat view perspective, from a price point perspective, it factors in all of that, and it finds you the best deals available. And that's what Game Time does. They just want to save you money. They've got flash deals. They've got zone deals. They've got the best price guarantee, which means if you actually find tickets somewhere cheaper on the same section, same row for less, they'll credit you up to 110% of the difference. I love Game Time so much because they've got great options for sports, but I'm a big stand-up comedy fan. I'm a big musical theater fan. Maybe you want to take your significant other on a night out at the DCPA. You can't do much better than that. Game Time's got great deals. And again, Game Time Picks curation makes it easier than ever to save more on sports, comedy, theater, etc. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, use that code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Really, really great interview with John Weber. It's refreshing to see the approach that they're bringing to the table. They're just trying so many more things to engage the fans. I'm not going to go on some big rants about how things used to be, but I think for a long time, the approach was just like, oh, well, what are we supposed to do? It's tough to be us, so darn it. And instead, we're now seeing both from an AD standpoint and from the school president. I mean, this really is top down, a commitment to leaning into athletic excellence. And, you hope that it's not too little too late. You hope we didn't miss the window. But the thing about college athletics is it's always changing. And I don't think realignment is necessarily ever done. If you could strike here while the iron is hot, generate some success these next couple of years, man, that would be big for the future of this school, for the future of all these sports teams, and for the future of us as CSU supporters. Before we get out, I did want to just give a couple of my favorite Orange Out memories. These were some of my favorite games to go to as a student. If you're curious about the history, I'm not going to do like the whole extended history. I highly recommend reading the many pieces that John Hearn has written about it over the years. CSU's history. He's incredible. But the orange and green actually dates all the way back to January 7th, 1893. CSU was playing some weird school in Longmont. I don't really know. It's like a hybrid teacher school or something. And they had to use orange and green ribbon to distinguish themselves. Everyone just kind of had like the same brownish, looking uniforms back then. They needed green and orange ribbon to distinguish themselves. And somewhere around the early 1900s, they put orange officially on the jersey. You didn't have to use ribbon anymore. Green was established as the primary color. Officially, CSU went to green and gold as the school colors in 1909. But obviously, we've seen green and orange be incorporated in various ways, over the years. And then in 2010, they bring the uniforms back. It became the annual tradition. Always been one of my favorites. I'm a big sucker for pageantry, for the tradition and honoring your roots. Admittedly, these aren't necessarily like the most impactful moments in Ag Day. Like, I think you could make an argument 2010, the first, should be in this list. I wasn't there, I wasn't in the stands. So these are just ones that I hold near and dear to my heart. I know you all have your own favorite Ag Day memories as well. But starting at number 3, it's the 2014 win over Tulsa. This is one of I think the 2014 and 2015 Ag Day uniforms are some of the sharper ones, with the green helmets with the orange bone. That's with the white pants, but with the green and orange striping and the Aggie A. It just looked really, really sharp. And they won that game 42-17. Rashard went off. He had 3 touchdowns in the second quarter alone, 6 catches, 178 yards, 4 touchdowns that day. D. Hart had a pair of rushing tutties as well. Total domination. More importantly, the Rams got revenge. If you remember back to 2013, week 2, CSU got walked off on the road by Tulsa, lost a really frustrating game, had some dumb turnovers, and in 2013, man, they lost that game in San Jose State in the first 6 weeks, and it really could have been like a 9 or 10 win season had they not had that slow start out of the gate. But you get to exercise those demons a little bit in 2014. Hughes was rocking. I've got some great photos from that day. One of my favorite memories as a CSU student. Number 2, we're going 2013. My first Ag Day. I was a freshman in college. The Rams beat UTEP 59-42. It was a wild game. They went up 28-0, I think, or 28-7. Allowed UTEP to come all the way back and tie it. They gave up like 35 points in the second half. It was absurd. At one point, you're up 28-7. They come all the way back and tie it. And then I think CSU regains the lead with a safety. It was an insanely dumb game. But it was huge for the Rams in that 2013 season because, like I said, they had just lost that game to Tulsa. They had actually beaten Cal Poly at home and just gone to Tuscaloosa and played a tight game against the number 1 team in the country. Ended up losing 31-6, but you played well. Shaq Barrett hung. It's like a 10-point game in the third quarter. Obviously a lot different than what we saw against Texas this past week. But that was it was a really big game. Rashard, another big game in that one. Like I said, he was huge in all the Orange Out games. I had 6 catches, 156 yards, and a pair of tutties. Capri went for 147 on the ground. He had 3 scores on just 13 carries. That was kind of right around when he started to establish himself as the starting running back. People forget Capri put up that insane year, like 31 rushing touchdowns or whatever it was. He wasn't even officially the starting running back until like halfway through. He was constantly clashing with the staff, always kind of getting in trouble, but God, was he special. I know D. Hart was incredible in 2014, but there will always be a part of me that just, what if Capri had come back in 2014 with the way we saw that passing offense execute. Grayson, that season was as good as any quarterback in program history. Really fun day. It's kind of a random moment, but I had a bunch of friends from high school come up. Actually, my future wife, she was at that game with me. So it's just it's one that's near and dear to my heart, although it's probably not the most significant Orange Out for a lot of you. 2013 UTEP. But number 1, 2016 Northern Colorado. They won this one 47-21. This was the first time they wore the true pumpkin fits with the green pants, the orange jerseys, the green lids. Highly divisive online. I think the fit is atrocious. I think the white pants look so much better, but I know some people really do like the true pumpkin look. Colin Hill's first start, though, he went 21-27 that day for 315 and 4 scores, set up what was then a really nice performance on the road against Minnesota. And obviously he tore his ACL against Utah State like 2 weeks later. Really sucked. But man, I'll tell you what, on that day, you couldn't tell me anything. I just remember being so in on Colin Hill, and he'll always be one of the greatest what ifs for me, because I think if that dude stays healthy, he goes down as the greatest quarterback in program history. I mean, at least at that time, I think he puts up insane numbers. I think he's in the NFL right now. I mean, I really think if he doesn't tear his ACL 3 times in 2.5 years, that kid was special. I mean, he was highly intelligent. He had that it factor you need to have as a quarterback, that little bit of swagger while still being, like a good old Southern boy that was just really genuine, and all his teammates loved him. That dude had all the talent in the world, and they stomped Greeley that day. And that's obviously what you need to see the Rams do this weekend. You need some style points. I really think you do, to calm down the masses, to get the confidence back with all your skill players. I think you got to let it rip this weekend. Now, are there some things you keep in your back pocket? I'm sure. But I really don't think you want to get too cute. I don't. Go out there, put some points on the board. Hopefully, do it early, and then you're able to get some younger guys in the second half, and you're able to hang on to, some of that stuff you might be trying to save for down the line. But you got to capitalize. There's going to be 34,000+, probably approach a sellout. Sounds like the next couple weeks, like State Pride only has a limited availability of tickets left at this point as well. You got to establish some positive momentum here, create some positive experiences, and make Ag Day the thrilling experience it was for so long. I mean, they didn't lose until like 8 or 9 Ag Days in, and then we all remember how that went under Bobo, and it feels like it's kind of lacked some juice ever since then. Last year was better. It was a step in the right direction, but I really think a big time win, like a Savannah State style 2016, where they won 63-7. I mean, if you could do something like that to just get the vibes right, get some confidence, it would go a long way. Before we get out of here, kind of a tough note. I just wanted to say a few words in honor of Dawson Thompson. He was a friend of a friend. I had the privilege of interacting with him a handful of times. A Rams supporter sent me a couple of really nice messages on social over the years. He was tragically shot and killed earlier this week. I don't know what one is supposed to say in these moments, and I'm not trying to make it all about me, because again, I did not know him super well, but I was fortunate to get to interact with him on a couple of occasions, and I know some people that were very tight with him, and it just seems like he was a very caring, sweet individual, a great friend, and I can't believe that this happened. My heart goes out to his family, everybody impacted. I would love to see the Rams pull out a big win this weekend in honor of him. So rest in peace, Dawson. Gone far too soon, my man. I'm heartbroken, but hope to see the Rams pull it out on Saturday. I'll be going live Saturday night, sometime between 9:30 and 10 p.m. We'll kind of see what happens there with a time perspective. Obviously, I got to do the post-game pressers and all of that, and then we'll get set up in the studio, and we'll be rocking. I'll have written takeaways. I'll have all that fun stuff. I cannot wait for game day. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Again, make sure you're there early. They got a couple of flyovers. We're honoring John Mosley, one of the most important men in program history. Always proud to be. Much love, y'all. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.